There's a quiet war happening in the automotive world right now, and if you own a modern vehicle, you're already caught in the middle of it. We used to buy a car, own it, and fix it. If a part broke, you sourced a replacement, bolted it in, and that was that. The relationship between owner, mechanic, and machine was straightforward. But over the past decade, that relationship has been fundamentally dismantled, not by any single decision, but by the slow, deliberate layering of software on top of hardware, until the two became inseparable. The mechanical side of your car hasn't changed all that much. Pistons still fire, brakes still clamp, suspension still compresses. What has changed is the intelligence sitting on top of all of it. Today's mid-range vehicle contains anywhere from 70 to 150 electronic control units, ECUs, managing everything from combustion timing and traction control to steering feedback and climate systems. These modules don't just run in isolation. They communicate with each other constantly, forming a distributed computing network underneath your hood. This shift happened for legitimate reasons. Software made cars safer, cleaner, and more capable than pure mechanical engineering ever could. But it also fundamentally changed what it means to replace a part. Swapping a physical component is no longer enough. The new part has to be recognized, authenticated, and accepted by the car's network before it will function. That process is called VIN pairing, and it has become the central weapon in this conflict. Manufacturers now cryptographically tie replacement parts to a specific vehicle identification number. Install a genuine OEM headlamp assembly on a newer BMW or a steering column on a late model Ford, and the car will immediately throw a fault, not because the part is wrong, but because it lacks software authorization. To fix that, you need proprietary diagnostic software, a dealer subscription, or a live connection to the manufacturer's servers. The part works perfectly. The car simply refuses to recognize it. The diagnostic tools themselves are just as restricted. The OBD2 port was standardized specifically to give anyone access to vehicle data, but manufacturers have built proprietary communication layers on top of it. Accessing deep system diagnostics, calibrating safety systems, or performing module resets now requires brand-specific software licenses that cost independent shops thousands of dollars per year, per brand. The car didn't get more complicated. It got locked. To understand why manufacturers are doing this, you have to follow the money. Selling cars is a notoriously thin-margin business. The showroom floor gets all the attention, but dealerships actually survive on the service bay. Fixed operations, service, parts, and warranty work generate the majority of a dealership's net profit while representing a fraction of total revenue. New vehicle sales fluctuate with interest rates and consumer confidence, but service revenue is predictable, recurring, and recession-resistant. Software authentication forces that revenue back into the dealer network at every level. It mandates OEM parts over cheaper aftermarket alternatives. It justifies labor rates that independent shops can't match because independent shops literally can't access the tools. And on top of that, manufacturers are now monetizing features that are already physically installed in your car, locking heated seats, enhanced driver assistance, or performance modes behind subscription paywalls. The car is just the entry point. The recurring revenue is the product. This is the landscape that channels like Rich Rebuilds, Tavarish, Matt Armstrong, and Sam Crack walked into, and they immediately started breaking it open on camera. Rich Rebuilds began documenting salvage Tesla restorations at a time when Tesla refused to sell parts to third parties and had no traditional dealer network, creating competitive pricing pressure. In one widely circulated case, his shop repaired a Model 3 for around $700 after Tesla quoted the owner $16,000 for a full battery replacement. The actual fault was a cracked plastic coolant flange. That video reached hundreds of thousands of people and made one point impossible to ignore. The gap between a manufacturer's quote and the actual cost of repair can be enormous, and that gap is a policy decision, not a technical one. Tavarish, Matt Armstrong, and Sam Crack pushed this further through high-profile supercar rebuilds. These are massively damaged exotics, cars that insurance companies totaled based on inflated dealer repair costs, bought from auction and restored on camera for a fraction of the write-off value. Every successful rebuild is a direct challenge to the total loss narrative. When a creator proves that an $80,000 insurance write-off can be safely and properly restored for $25,000 using quality salvage components and skilled independent labor, it doesn't just make great content. It quantifies, for millions of viewers, exactly how much margin manufacturers and insurers are extracting from the repair ecosystem. This is precisely what car brands find threatening, not the wrenching itself, but the data. The pricing data, the diagnostic data, the documentation of what repairs actually involve and what they should actually cost. For decades, that information lived in expensive factory service manuals, dealer training programs, and locked scan tools. YouTube destroyed that gatekeeping completely. What used to cost hundreds of dollars in proprietary binders is now free, searchable, and demonstrated step-by-step on video. The everyday tutorial and diagnostic content matters just as much as the supercar rebuilds. Independent shops documenting real-world repairs have built a generation of car owners who understand what a module is, what VIN coding means, and what a realistic labor rate looks like. That knowledge directly undermines the information asymmetry dealerships rely on to control repair conversations. When a service advisor tells a customer that a basic calibration requires a mandatory dealer visit, and that customer has already watched 3 videos explaining why that's not true, the dynamic shifts entirely. The shift to electric vehicles doesn't resolve any of this, it makes every single layer of it worse. EVs eliminate a lot of mechanical complexity. No timing belts, no spark plugs, no transmission fluid services. Manufacturers market this aggressively as a maintenance advantage. But the mechanical simplicity comes with dramatically deeper software lockouts. The most expensive component in the vehicle, the battery pack, sits right at the center of this problem. On a Tesla, swapping a battery pack or replacing a single-cell module isn't just a high-voltage physical job. It requires reconfiguring the battery management system, which tracks cell history, charge cycles, and state of health at the pack level. Without direct manufacturer cooperation or highly specialized third-party tools, a physically successful battery swap can result in a car that reports artificially reduced capacity, throws permanent warning lights, or loses access to charging networks entirely. Manufacturers point to high-voltage safety risks to justify keeping this work inside their authorized centers, but that argument collapses when you realize those same manufacturers refuse to make their safety training and technical documentation available to qualified independent technicians who want to do the work properly. EVs also introduce a dimension that combustion vehicles never had at scale: continuous remote monitoring. Modern electric vehicles are essentially data endpoints on wheels, streaming location, driving behavior, charge history, and fault data directly back to factory servers at all times. That connection gives manufacturers something unprecedented: the ability to know, in real time, whether a vehicle has been serviced outside their network. Over-the-air updates add another layer. A repair that works perfectly today can theoretically be patched out by a silent software update tomorrow. The manufacturer never fully relinquishes control of the vehicle. They retain administrative access indefinitely. The legal response to all of this is now in full motion. In the US, the Repair Act would compel manufacturers to provide owners and independent shops with the same diagnostic data, software tools, and system access that authorized dealers receive, and would prohibit manufacturers from blocking compatible aftermarket parts production. Recent polling shows over 83% of Americans support right-to-repair legislation across party lines. Data from the Auto Care Association estimates that diagnostic data blockades cost the independent repair industry approximately $3.1 billion annually, a direct transfer of revenue from independent shops into the dealer network. States including Colorado and Oregon have already passed laws specifically targeting parts pairing, recognizing it as a market control mechanism rather than a safety measure. Internationally, the EU's right to repair directive mandates that manufacturers provide full parts and tooling access to consumers and independent shops. Manufacturers and dealer groups are pushing back on 2 fronts. First, they argue that repair data is already accessible through existing industry agreements, a claim that 63% of independent shops directly contradict, reporting data access barriers on a weekly basis. Second, they raise cybersecurity concerns, arguing that opening diagnostic access creates exploitable attack surfaces in vehicle software. It's a legitimate technical consideration, but it's being used to justify restrictions that go far beyond any reasonable security boundary. The aviation industry offers a useful counterpoint. Aviation is arguably the most safety-critical transportation sector on Earth, and it functions on a highly structured, heavily regulated third-party maintenance model. Independent MRO facilities handle complex systems on commercial aircraft every day. The argument that independent automotive repair is inherently too dangerous for modern vehicles isn't a technical conclusion. It's an economic policy wearing safety language as a disguise. So where does this land? The honest answer is that manufacturers have legitimate interests here. Modern vehicles are genuinely complex. Connected systems carry real cybersecurity risk. High-voltage battery packs require proper handling. The investment in vehicle software is real and substantial. But those legitimate interests don't fully explain a system where a physical part that fits perfectly and functions correctly is rejected by the car because it hasn't been authorized by a server. That's not safety engineering. That's revenue engineering. What creators like Rich Rebuilds, Tavarish, Samcrack, and Matt Armstrong did was build a public, documented, undeniable record of what's actually possible when real technical skill meets a broken car. They exposed the pricing gap. They proved the narrative wrong. And in doing so, they became the most inconvenient thing a manufacturer can face: a credible, popular, well-documented alternative. The question this war will ultimately answer is simple, even if the legal and technical path to answering it isn't. When you buy a car, do you own it? Or are you just the current authorized user of something that still belongs to someone else? That answer will define what vehicle ownership means for the next generation.